Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stluke'sonline.org.
In collaboration with Boise State Public Radio, the Community Library presents a new podcast, Sheep Stories. I'm host Vance Cunningham. Join me as we listen through the archives of the Trailing of the Sheep Festival to learn about the Scottish, Basque, and Peruvian immigrants foundational to the sheep herding industry over the past century. Hear their stories of traveling to Idaho and learning the language of the sheep. Find Sheep Stories wherever you get your podcasts and at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Imagine a huge bird of prey like an owl or a red-tailed hawk flying right over your head and then landing a few feet away. You don't actually have to imagine this because that's what happens every autumn at the World Center for Birds of Prey in Boise. It's called Fall Flights, and it's a chance for a close encounter with some of the avian ambassadors who live at the center and who spend their time teaching folks why it's so important to protect birds of prey in the wild. Tate Mason is the director of World Center for Birds of Prey, and he's back on Idaho Matters to tell us more about Fall Flights. Tate, welcome back.
Thank you, Gemma. So good to be here.
Good to have you with us. Okay, so Tate, there are folks who aren't familiar with the World Center of Birds of Prey. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Certainly. The World Center for Birds of Prey is the headquarters of an international nonprofit organization called the Peregrine Fund. Now, the Peregrine Fund's mission is the conservation of birds of prey worldwide. And raptors were really foundation to the modern conservation movement that got started like in the 1960s and 1970s. The recognition and understanding globally that humans can cause or prevent extinction of wildlife has led to the Peregrine Fund working on behalf of birds and our birds of prey through things like captive breeding, saving endangered species like the peregrine falcon, and now one of our biggest projects, the recovery of the California condor.
Okay, so you mentioned the Peregrine Fund. What is that?
Sure, the Peregrine Fund, that is a nonprofit organization that is active around the world with a mission to conserve birds of prey worldwide, and the headquarters is located at the World Center for Birds of Prey in Boise.
Okay, so I mentioned the Fall Flights, and when I was introducing you, Tate, can you talk to us about it and what happens during these events?
Sure. I like to think how we become interested in wild places or wildlife in general. And as a biologist, I've had these up close and personal experiences with birds, with other sorts of wildlife. And I recognize that not everybody has that opportunity. So with Fall Flights, we've been trying to take some of the most amazing things that we see in nature, like, for example, birds of prey hunting, and make that available for everybody to see in real life. And so that's really what Fall Flights is. We invite people to our Raptor Ridge Amphitheater, and we have a program that we put on with there's 6 raptors that are in the program this year, and anything from a peregrine falcon to one of the largest owls in Africa, ferruginous hawk, and some amazing raptors. Now they fly and they do what they do best, but we just kind of make it accessible for everybody to see that up close. And that's really what Fall Flights is.
So is it really like a true close encounter? I mean, how do the birds come to the audience?
Sure. The birds are flying around the amphitheater. And, we practice it quite a bit without people. And then when people are there, the birds just kind of adjust. The birds naturally will fly low over this amphitheater. And so I was there just the other day, and our Swainson's hawk came in from behind and came so low, I felt the bird just kind of graze over my head. And it's just amazing to be that close to a wild bird like that.
How many birds fly during Fall Flight? I think, what'd you say, 6 or?
Yeah,
7,
this year
like
we're flying 6, and we tried 7 last year. And each year, we might change it up just a little bit, but we've kind of come up with this kind of all-star cast. The birds that really thrive in doing Fall Flights, and every bird kind of has their own training plan and the things that they do best at. And the birds that we're flying this year are really all excelling at fall flights.
Why are events like fall flights so important to the work that you do?
Sure. It is really important that people are not apathetic to conservation issues. There are such amazing creatures out there, and with 50% of raptors around the world in decline, a third of raptor species are threatened or endangered, and there are 17 critically endangered species with a high risk of going extinct in the next 50 years. If people don't know or don't care, even worse, then it's likely that we're not going to be able to stop those declines. But if there is this groundswell of support, which I see in Boise, when people come to fall flights or people come to the World Center for Birds of Prey year round, there's this energy toward conservation that we can fix these issues, like habitat loss, for example, human wildlife conflict. We can address these things. And if we do that, we safeguard the future for raptors. And as indicators of the health of the environment, we're also safeguarding the planet for humanity.
I know you mentioned a little bit about birds of prey in the wild, and I know a lot of them are in trouble. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because my understanding is you've got a new book out that really dives into this as well.
Yeah, we're looking at the state of the world's raptors, and, recognizing that we need to prioritize our efforts around the world. Our mission is the conservation of birds of prey worldwide. So that's not just like the conservation of birds of prey in Idaho, for example. And
Mhm.
so we have partnered with biologists and trained biologists around the world for over 50 years that the Peregrine Fund has been in existence, and we have this awesome network of people that study birds of prey around the world. And so we've divided the world into 14 bioregions, and in conjunction with the scientists and the people from those areas, we have assessed how the raptors are doing in each of those places and identified areas that we really need to focus on in order to save species that are really unique and really endangered.
So, are there certain birds, in particular, if people pick up this book, where they'll know, like, oh, there are some birds doing a bit better in this part of the world, not so much in this part of the world?
Yeah, correct. That information is really apparent there. And then there's also, some of the birds that are really, really important that we focus on, like the secretary bird in Africa, but then also the
Hmm.
California condor in the US. That's a bird that's practically in our backyard. It's in Utah, in Arizona, in California, and in Mexico. And the California condor was down to just 22 individual birds in the 1980s. One of the most threatened or endangered birds in the whole world. And through the efforts of the Peregrine Fund and our collaborators, we're working to bring that bird back, but it's still only at about 560 individuals, which is not quite recovery status.
Hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know we've had you guys on the show before to talk specifically about the California condors. You've done a lot of work with them, and as you said, yes, those numbers have gone up, but it's not at a place where we could say, oh, they're recovered and doing well.
Right. Well, with the condor, the main issue that is causing the mortality is lead poisoning. So the condors are eating spent ammunition out of animals that have been shot. That could be a gut pile, or it could be a coyote or something that somebody shot in the field and it stayed out there. And so across Western North America, there is a lot of lead in dead animals. And so you could consider that even habitat loss, in the sense that the food of the scavengers has a toxin in it, which is lead. And so that's one of the issues we've been trying to address, and really proactively helping hunters to move beyond lead into using non-toxic ammunition. And really, hunters are the solution to this issue, because if hunters are not using lead, the condors need the dead animals on the landscape. So hunting is really a key part of the condor recovery. We just need to do it lead free.
So before I let you go, can you talk a little bit more about the fall flights, the when the event will be, and where people can find out more information, and how long does it last?
So we're doing fall flights every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in September and October. So we're looking at our last fall flights probably being Halloween, which we are at this point calling fall frights, and we'll have a whole
Oh, I
costume
like it.
show, I believe. So we're every Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 11 a.m. The programs have been running about 45 minutes. Every every program is different though, because depending on how the birds are flying, how the weather is, and it can go a little bit faster or it can go a little bit slower. And so about 45 minutes. And then fall flights admission includes admission to the World Center for Birds of Prey and to the Archives of Falconry. So it's a great place to come spend, 3 or 4 hours.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk with us about this. We've been speaking with Tate Mason. He is the director of the World Center for Birds of Prey. He's been talking about fall flights in Boise. This is where live birds of prey will fly over the audience. It is a true close encounter. Now, fall flights continues weekends through October, as Tate just mentioned. We're going to make sure we put pictures from past fall flights on our website, so you can take a look at that. Just go to boisestatepublicradio.org. You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudette.